Well, markets already reacting to the deadly airstrikes in Iran and Israel. We can cross now live to Chief Market Analyst at GTC, Jameel Ahmad, to find out a bit more. Jameel, good morning. Can you start by giving us a look at how those markets are doing?
So, of course, we're keeping the focus quite closely on oil prices and gold. But talking about global markets, we did have a sell-off at the end of last week, but this morning there seems to be a little bit of stability. I think that's a little bit more of investors waiting to see what might happen next. I'm not expecting markets to rebound as the situation remains very tense. Talking about oil prices moved as high as 13% between Thursday and Friday. That was the biggest one-day increase on Friday since the beginnings of the Russia and Ukraine crisis of March 2022. Gold prices have also initially benefited. We've gone within $50 of the all-time highs of $3,500. Some of that momentum in gold seems to be slipping a little bit in the early hours of Monday trade, but of course it's very early in the trading week. This situation remains very tense and fragile, and we do expect to see more volatility over the remainder of this trading week.
Indeed, it's not the first time, but we've heard renewed calls or suggestions from Iran that it could close that strategic Strait of Hormuz. What impact would that have then on the oil?
Focus will be dominated very much on oil prices because we do expect that as much as 20 or maybe towards even 25% of the global oil supply could actually come through the Strait of Hormuz. So considering we've already had a 13% move in oil between Thursday and Friday, as high as $75 a time in this interview, it's not out of the realms of possibilities that should that event actually occur, we could be looking at $90 oil prices. Some are even anticipating that if this move did occur, we could go towards $100. For the moment, oil is very volatile. Of course, geopolitical situation in the Middle East is unpredictable, and it's also very fragile in itself. So we can't expect to have anything other than potentially even higher oil prices anyway, even if the Strait of Hormuz is not going to be closed.
And Jameel, let's step away from the wars, the crises in the Middle East for a minute. There are other things investors are keeping an eye on.
It's an extremely busy week on the economic data front anyway. We've got key economic data coming out of China. We've also got the US retail sales report, which is very important because of how big consumer spending is as a proportion of the US GDP. We've also got UK inflation data. But then we've also got a number of central bank interest rate decisions, including from the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, and the US Federal Reserve. The US Federal Reserve interest rate decision comes just days after the US president did call Fed Chair Jerome Powell a numbskull for not cutting interest rates. Even despite that, there's a 97% probability that the US Central Bank will leave interest rates unchanged this week.
Jameel Ahmad, Chief Market